I want you to picture this. You're standing inside an elevator. The doors slide open with that familiar ding. You look down, and there it is. That gap. A dark, empty space between the elevator floor and the building itself, big enough to drop a phone, or a key, or, if your brain panics for half a second, a foot. It looks wrong. It looks unfinished. It looks unsafe. And you think, there is no way this is allowed. This has to be illegal, right? But here's the surprising truth. That gap isn't a mistake. It's not laziness. And it's definitely not a cost-cutting accident. Today, we're uncovering why elevators have that gap at the bottom, how it actually keeps you safe, and why removing it would make elevators far more dangerous. To understand that gap, we first have to look at the problem elevators were created to solve. Before elevators, buildings had a hard limit. Humans only like climbing so many stairs. 3 floors? Fine. 10 floors? Miserable. 20 floors? Forget it. In the dark ages of tall buildings, height meant pain, inefficiency, and danger. People slipped on stairs. They carried heavy loads. Firefighters took forever to reach upper floors. Elevators solved vertical movement, but they introduced a new nightmare. You're now standing inside a moving box, suspended in the air, inside a narrow shaft. Suddenly, tiny design decisions became life or death, including that gap. Here's the first thing most people don't realize. Buildings are not solid. They bend, they sway, they expand in heat, they shrink in cold, they shift under wind, weight, and even earthquakes. Think of a skyscraper like a giant tree. It looks rigid, but it's constantly moving. Now imagine an elevator that fits perfectly into that shaft. No gap, flush, tight. Sounds safer, right? Wrong. Because when the building moves, that elevator would scrape, jam, or worse, get stuck halfway between floors. So engineers leave space on purpose. That gap is tolerance, breathing room, a buffer, like wearing shoes half a size bigger so your feet don't swell into pain. So if buildings move, why not just anchor the elevator tighter? Because that creates a bigger problem. Here's where it gets serious. Elevators are designed around failure scenarios, not best days, worst days, power loss, emergency braking, mechanical failure, fire response. At the bottom of the shaft is something called a pit. That gap gives space for shock absorbers, emergency buffers, maintenance access, safety systems that stop the car if it overshoots. If an elevator ever goes lower than it should, that space is what saves lives. Think of it like the crumple zone in a car. You don't see it. You don't think about it. But without it, a crash becomes catastrophic. So if this gap is for safety, why does it look so exposed? Why not just cover it? That brings us to the part nobody likes to talk about: money and law. Elevators are some of the most regulated machines on Earth. Every inch is controlled by safety codes, clearances, distances, tolerances. That gap exists because safety law requires it, not suggests it, requires it. Why? Because covering or shrinking it creates new risks. Parts rubbing during movement, debris buildup, trapped heat, emergency systems failing. And here's the brutal truth. A perfectly sealed elevator looks safer, but statistically causes more breakdowns, rescues, and injuries. From an economic standpoint, that gap also matters. Elevators need constant inspection. Technicians need access. Repairs need space. Removing that gap would increase breakdowns, increase repair costs, increase downtime, increase lawsuits. So if engineers had a choice between a gap that looks scary but works safely, or a seamless design that fails more often, the decision is obvious. So if the gap looks dangerous, why don't more accidents happen? Because your brain is bad at judging vertical risk. The next time you step into an elevator and your eyes drift down to that gap, don't see it as a flaw. Don't see it as carelessness. See it as proof that someone thought about the worst day, not the best one. That space exists because buildings move, because machines fail, because humans panic, and because safety is often invisible until you need it. It's not a missing piece. It's a silent safety system doing its job. So if this surprised you, hit like and subscribe for more hidden stories behind everyday things, because the world around you isn't poorly designed. It's just smarter than it looks.